And you can also see here on the jimping, this jimping is very effective. It's actually almost, you would say, the reverse of this jimping. It's kind of funny. So I definitely like this style right here. It's really good. There's no other jimping like typically on tactical knives over here and over here, but so far, you know, it locks in good because of these slight choils and stuff. And I will note that I was kind of concerned that, you know, this G10 kind of gets thin right here and right here, you know, but I mean, you know, there's no actual, it's not sticking out. If it were to drop, you know, the blade is also into that shape, and you know, you can actually kind of tell that Mr. Terzuola had an influence on Strider, because, you know, Strider used to always mill out that hole, you know, for the lanyard, and that always create like a weak spot on the G10. On the new ones, you're looking on this SMF, they ditched the idea. I think Mr. Terzuola finally kind of, you know, said, hey, you know, why do you have that hole there? I mean, your knives cut your lanyards anyway. Why make that corner weak? So this Terzuola doesn't do that. Also, the thumb lugs, you can see they're ambidextrous, but normally Strider just pushes it in. It's just a stop pin that's pushed through, and it's just held in place by pressure, and the titanium stop pin. Titanium's kind of, you know, bendy anyway, so that's kind of why it stays in place. It could have expanded after it went through. But on this one, you can see Mr. Terzuola. Now, I don't know if the production ones will do this, but it's actually capped off to stay in place. And one thing I always liked about Striders was it did have this hole, so you could make it more tactical, and you know, either had to put a lanyard there, or those zip ties, you could, you know, wave it like an Emerson, and that was always good. But with the Terzuola, it is still, you know, funny. Even though it's this big, he still puts it tip-up carry, right pocket. So you pull it out, and it's definitely harder to get your hands up there. I mean, you know, you may have to have some really big hands, but regardless, you know, it may look, you know, and at first impression, you know, it's kind of hard, you know. I think this ramp up here even is there to help you do that. But you can, you know, as, you know, it's hard, but as you use it, you know, flicking it, for some reason I'm easier with my left hand. You can actually still flick it with your fingers underneath. Once you've lubricated it and gotten it smooth, it's still doable. And so, you know, for tactical reasons, I mean, if you know, you practice long enough, this is new to me, I just got this one, you know, you can keep at it, and eventually, you know, at least there's those options if you have to open it quickly. Definitely, it's not the same thing as having a hole there, but these thumb lugs are pretty good, and they're in a nice spot. For me, personally, I like this design, this stick shape. You know, I like that there's the hole there on this, because it kind of, you know, every time, you know, you see those Striders, that hole. That sounds funny, but, you know, don't be mad at me, but I always think of like it's an eye, and then it's like a fish or something. But regardless, with these, you know, I like them because they always make the blade look more strong and look more like a complete solid knife. And I mean, if you look at a Strider and that wasn't there, it looked like a knife blade. You know, this way, a little different. I always like that. And you know, these thumb lugs, you know, it's old-fashioned, but you know, hey, Mr. Terzuola, he's been doing this for a long time, and you know, if that's you know, his way, you know, I'm cool with it. This is my first Terzuola knife, and I definitely like his thinking. His other designs, I definitely are not like this, because this has some Strider influence in it. And so some of the things that make the inside of this knife, you know, the things you don't see, are what make this knife excellent and very impressive. So, for example, a couple of key interesting features are, if you look at the handle titanium side, you can see it's hardened on the corners where this lock bar bend is, to make it more strong and move less this way from side to side. Even this little corner right here where it's the thinnest, you know. And then also, let's see, now this is the most I guess you say the most impressive, or the most ingenuitive part about this knife. And one, if you note, the washers are both the same, so they're identical size. Let's see, it's this, you see the lockup? Okay, right there, you see, with no stop pin, there's no up and down. That this lock bar meets on two sides. Now, if you guys can see this or not, see, there's a, there's wearing here and a little bit here, because when it meets, and you can see it on this lock bar. You guys can see when it meets on those 2 points, so that helps, receive some of the force, not just the stop pin. And so that's a very interesting lockup. I mean, this also, then when you unlock it, you push it down. You can't push it down into the handle. I mean, the stabilizer is there, but this helps even more that aspect too. And of course, then you have 3 screws, all the same size. The traditional Strider pivot, and then of course the little hinder stabilizer, which this is a fine thing just to note for anyone who's never taken these apart. This is how it looks. If you see any of the pictures, it's flat, right? Flat disc. Just to note, all Strider screws are really durable, but this screw, the one that holds this hinder stabilizer disc, is by far the weakest, I would say cheap, ill-strip screw on a Strider. And the funniest thing is, if you look on the other side, it's contoured, and then it has a little deep kind of inlet for the screw, and that's what you see on the customs or the concealed carry supposedly. So it's actually that's smart on Strider. They just save money, they got a flat side and the round side. I'm gonna switch mine to the round side, because then that makes more contact earlier on the lock bar. So, and also you can see the stop pin right here. This is one of my concerns is you have this pin taking all the impacts, and it's into the G10 and the titanium handle. Now in the titanium handle side, you can see it goes about a good maybe 3 millimeters deep into that little hole, and on this side it's press fitted, and I can't even take it out, so I don't think I should. I think it's it's perfectly pushed in there, and it actually is sort of at an angle. There's some pressure on that, not making it completely horizontal. And so this is one of those things. I mean, Strider, this is a very complex knife for a Strider. This is a very delicate lockup that only Mr. Terzuola would through experience know about and come up with. So I wonder, the reason why I got mine is because I worry about can Strider do this and machine this properly, just like Mr. Terzuola did. And that's something we'll have to see.